Greetings and salutations, all those who are going to be watching this video. This is Homer J. Simp, yet again trying for another interesting video of Kerbal Space Program. As you can see here, I have created a stable orbit. We are flying the Columbiad, our tried and true extra-atmospheric aircraft. The objective for today is the moon. As you can see, I actually have set up some lunar approaches, and today I'm going to just make a video recording of my attempt. So as you can see here, we have our sturdy little aero spacecraft, the Columbiad, and Deslin Kerman, the brave pilot, who's going to be taking our vessel to the moon. So, first things first. As the moon is our target, we are going to just set a series of burns so we get an encounter with the celestial body. Now just adjusting this so we can get a contact for it is going to be rather interesting, because the encounter is going to be rather interesting to set up. So trying to do this with the least amount of fuel, but with the maximum amount of success. So I'm just going to cut here, and I'll get it set up once I have set a safe trajectory. Alright, so as you can see, after some slight calculations, I have set an appropriate burn that'll get us from our orbit of Kerbin to get an encounter with the moon. So as you can see here, that's where we're going to be trapped in the moon's gravity well. So this is a neat little setup here, especially now that you have the nav ball visible. We set our course trajectory as such right there. Oh, it's a little squinchy, but once we have our alignment set right there, good. So let's examine the spacecraft. So as you can see here, we've still got about 3 minutes before we have 0 for the encounter. I'm going to start the burn at approximately 45 seconds to compensate for the burn time. But as you can see, the Columbiad has a couple extra attachments, what with 1, additional fuel tanks, and 2, just making sure that we can get the right approach. So before we do anything here, I'm going to fill up these monopropellant tanks as much as possible, because I'm not too sure that the fuel requirements that we're going to need are going to be sufficient, and I might have to jettison the main engine mid-flight. However, actually, we can do this. Transfer fuel from the external fuel cells. We can just jettison these later, because all we're doing now is just going for a lunar orbit. And one thing that's very important is if you need to hit Alt when you right click, because otherwise you're going to be boned, because you need to make sure you can jettison the fuel. Actually, just to be on the safe side, we'll add an additional stage, because I want to dump the tanks and not detach the main rocket. So we'll detach those, and we'll just use the RCS to gently nudge them away. Just bat that away. Good. We still have our set velocity, or our set angle. So I'm going to save as much monopropellant as possible. So I've also learned as such, when doing these types of burns, you watch the actual burn time. So here we go. Throttle up, and we're watching our velocity plus the burn, and I'm going to jump intermittently between the actual rocket burn to watch the fuel or the engine because I don't want it exploding, and watching our trajectory shift. So, unfortunately, I can't speed it up, but the video I should be able to edit that. Oh dear. See, gotta watch that overheat. That could have been unpleasant. Hilarious, I'm sure. Because it would be all like, oh, Homer messed up, haha, dough, all that fun shit. So, there. Actually. Oh, gotta detach the stage. Because this is definitely something you don't want to occur. Wait till it gets to about as low as meters per second as possible. And here we cut the engine. Good. So our encounter isn't quite where it's going to be, but the nice thing about it is we do have a set trajectory. So, alright, I'm just going to fast forward until we get to about, to our apoapsis here, and then we'll just see if we get a lunar grab. Alright, as you can see, we have successfully accelerated away from planet Kerbin, and with our fuel supply at least relatively efficient, or sufficient for us to make our lunar adjustment, I'm going to keep the acceleration up because we won't be able to hit the encounter, well, for about another 11 hours, so unless we don't want to wait through that. Whoop, actually no. Looks like we missed the moon. Well, that's a little bit of, well, that's actually an incredibly big disappointment. However, we won't let that discourage us. Let's see if we can't recover our veritable little spacecraft. And this is always the scary part, because we are coming in at an incredibly high rate. Fortunately, we don't have to worry about atmospheric re-entry, because if that were the case, we would have burnt up like a cinder. But we'll just get the Columbiad back to terra firma, or Kerbin firma, whatever you want to call it. Fortunately, this is why I love this design, because this little aircraft is quite a scrapper. So I'm just going to watch and make sure we can make landfall. Now, of course, this would appear as a failure. However, the way I think of it is, the only way you can learn is by messing up. And as a result, this teaches me the valuable lesson of being prepared. So we have fuel. Set the SAS so we don't necessarily crash. We might not be able to make landfall, but we'll just see. I'm feeling particularly confident. Just throttle down, shut the engine off. Good. Okay. There. Nose up, my little friend. So as long as we can keep the nose up, we should theoretically be able to make the desert or the beach that you see off of there. So we'll just increase the time warp. Nope. Actually, it looks like we aren't going to make ground fall. Oh well. Tough break, little guy. Sorry, Deslin. Godspeed, and well, it's nice knowing you. Oh! No, this wasn't a complete flop. We did recover the pilot. As you can see here, the cockpit survived landing. You got some of those lower RCS bits. Alright. Well, next video we'll try again with hopefully a successful lunar grab.